Alright, next up, I think I'm going to go ahead and install the fresh air vent. I got a couple 4-inch squirrel cage fans here. They are 120 volt. Would prefer to get a 12 volt fan, but these are, I already have these and it'll save me from having to spend any more money. I looked at some 12 volt fans on eBay and they look pretty small and dinky and they're 40 bucks. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and reuse these. I'll have to run some power up to them from the inverter, but they're also really quiet and move a lot of air. So yeah, let's just grab one of these here. I'll take the one that doesn't have rebar on it. Got some rebar in this one. I feel like a carry handle. It's also got a couple pieces for legs. I like to use this for welding. To get fresh air when I need it. Though lately I've just been using this thing. So maybe, let me think here. Maybe it's time to clean this up, get the rebar off of it, and use this one because it's got a bit less mileage on it. So that is pretty handy. Yeah, let's just use this one. Got one of these things. Gonna use this for the intake side. I think I'm going to make a box for this to attach to. That way I can mount it. Got some hose clamps, some ducting clamps. That is a non-louvered vent there. Got one of the louvers. That's gonna get annoying while driving though, if that flaps around. If this is wide open like this, I think driving will just push air through the system, and I think I'm gonna make a box for it to attach to with like a sliding plate on it with holes drilled in it. So when I slide the plate, the holes will seal up, keep cold air from getting in during the winter, or air coming in when I don't want it to. Alright, I got that tape residue off with the goof off there. Came off pretty good. Now I'm going to hit it with the air compressor and get all the dust out of here. Out of the fins and out of the motor vents. Get some dust up in there too, so I'm going to clean this up really good. Alright, I'll make a box something like this. Got a spot to mount the squirrel cage fan with an opening that matches its opening. Gonna cut some slots and put a plate on the inside with a knob that can slide back and forth. Gonna go ahead and make the top removable as well so I can slide in this plate and clean it if I need to, if it gets dusty or whatnot. Was thinking I could even put an electrical switch in here so whenever the vent is slid open, it automatically turns the fan on, but it's just gonna make this a little more complicated. It's just gonna be easier to add a switch. Also, maybe I don't want the fan running all the time. If I can open this and just have a breeze come through when I'm driving, that might be better at times. Alright, got some markings made. Got two 7-inch squares for the ends, 4 12x7s for the sides, the top and the bottom, and a 5th piece down here for the sliding part that goes on the inside. Alright, blew out the back side of the motor and scrubbed or brushed out each one of these fins or vanes. Got it with the air compressor really good. Happy with that. There's all the pieces. 4 sides, top and bottom, and then those will be the sides. Those will be top and bottom and front and back. Sliding piece. Alright, looking pretty good. Just tacking it everywhere. Don't need to go too crazy with it. With the welding. Tacked it on the front, so the plate that I want to go in side. That's the top piece. Is not going to catch or drag on anything. It'll slide easier that way. Just need to cut some tabs for the corners. And maybe the middle. To mount the top cap to the access panel. Alright, I got some tabs welded on there. I don't think I'm going to need any for the middle. Plus I need to need a couple tabs hanging down from the access panel, or the top panel, to push on the back side of the slide, or the gate. I'm gonna have to shorten that a little bit. A couple tabs on the bottom for rails or for a guide. Alright, got this trimmed to fit. So open, we'll clear that first slot, and we'll trace out these right here and cut openings for those. When that's slid this way, yeah, those are not going to cover these vents very well. I should have put a little more spacing in between these. Those are 17 millimeters according to this. That's 20 millimeters. First slot. We'll trace these. I'll cut those out. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. That first slot's just gonna slide over and leave this open. So if that's open, there's not gonna be enough meat there to close that. So I'm gonna have to redraw these, and I think if I just cut, you know, if I cut on the insides of these lines in the middle, I can make this middle piece wider, and that'll cut off, or that'll seal up those vents a little better. So let's redraw that, and then yeah, we'll try and we'll cut these so these are a little wider. Okay, so that could be fully closed. And that maybe could be fully open. I guess I was close. It's like, how am I going to do this? I guess for this, got enough room over here, so that could be closed. That's closed, and that can be open. Yeah, let's do that maybe. So that can be closed, that can be open, closed, open, closed, open. Okay, we'll do it like that. I kind of figured I could set this plate so that the edge was right here. I could just slide it off this direction and then have only three slots to cut out, but it's just not going to work like that. I have to cut 4 slots. And then yeah, I'll see what I can do with I'll just cut on the insides of these lines, so this opening is going to be a little bit skinnier, and then I won't have to worry about there being gaps. So that'll be closed. Yeah, alright, that'll work. Open, closed. Looks like only this spot's going to have a gap, so I'll just try to remember to, let's see. So closed. I don't know, is that even really that big of a deal? Try and make me a little reminder here to cut this a little bit on the inside of that line. Not the biggest deal, probably. I might not do that, but I'm thinking winter time it'll be nice to be able to shut this off completely. But okay, that works. Let's work with that. Yeah, I thought I had these measured right. It's just this one I got cut a little skinny for some reason, so I'm pretty close on that. Alright, got some tabs welded on there on the top plate and a couple on the inside. Hopefully I won't have to bend these too much to get the blocking plate in there. Whatever the heck, can't think of what to call that. Just shut off plate. Anyway, I think that'll work out pretty good. I have to bend these in just a little bit, maybe, I'm not sure. That's nice. So when that's screwed in, that's going to hold a lot of pressure on the back side of that plate. Didn't do a very good job of lining this one up. I wanted this in line with that one, so it's out of the way as much as possible. And I could trim this so it doesn't show up, but I'm not too worried about it. Like, that would have been, I would have been fine with this. I'm kind of thinking I might move that over. Yeah, I did not get that lined up with my mark very well. Looking good though. I like what I see. Alright, got that top tab moved over. Much more happy with that. Alright, that worked out pretty good. It's not perfect, but I could always remake this sliding piece later. But I think that's going to be good enough to keep any noticeable drafts from coming through. If the, if that intake vent even gets enough pressure under that cap, the front cap, to let any draft come through. It might be fine, just as it is, but it'll also close it off for, winter time. So I think that'll be just fine like that. Real happy with that. I like it. Alright, that is 3/4 of an inch, which makes sense because that's what I cut these slots to. Those are 3/4 of an inch. It takes 3/4 of an inch to close that. Just wanted to make sure, because things aren't exactly, you know, these are a little bit skinnier than the outside slots. But it's about 3/4, maybe 7/8 of an inch. I don't really, you know, because I thought if I cut the slot for the handle exactly 3/4 of an inch, that'll act as a bit of a stop so that this won't travel too far this way, which actually seems like that's stopping just fine all on its own because it's hitting a tack weld down there, so that kind of works. And if I wanted to stop here, I could just put a self-tapping screw in about right here, and that'll act as the open stop. So I can set that right to where I want it, and I don't have to worry about making the slot for the handle exactly 3/4 of an inch, because the handle post might need a little more room in there. So I think I'll do that. Since it stops just fine going that way, I'll just put a self-tapping screw over here and keep that from opening too far, because it'll end up doing something like that or whatnot. So yeah, that'll work like that, and then put a screw over here for a stop, and then I could just put the handle slot however, wherever. Picked up a knob at the hardware store. I'll need to cut these screws a bit shorter. I also got some of this pipe wrap insulation tape. I'm gonna wrap the ducting, which will go from the intake vent opening to the fan. And I got for the ducting, I got some Rigiflex, some rigid clothes dryer ducting. Attached to that, got some holes drilled on the bottom. Put extras since it's going into a pretty thin piece of metal, so I gave myself some extra mounting points. Should hold things good and secure. Got that screw cut down so it'll tighten up on some 16 gauge. Alright, there we go. Looking pretty good. Works good. I like it. Not a perfect seal, but I can always remake this plate later if I care. I mean, my main thing is just keeping drafts from easily flowing through. It's not like this plate has a seal in between it and the case anyways, so it'll leak out in a couple places. It's really meant just to keep drafts from being able to come through too easily. Came out a little too far cutting on this slot. Just trying to give myself plenty of room for the flare at the end of this knob, but that was way too much. Oh well, I'm not worried about it. That serves its purpose there. Now I'm gonna wire wheel the rest of this rust off, wipe it down with some rubbing alcohol, get it primed and painted. Alright, that's looking awesome. I love it. It's in there nice and solid, nice and secure. It's actually got a pretty smooth action to that. Tabs on top, tabs on the bottom, holding it up tight. I probably will recut this sliding piece later just because it's gonna bug me. But I don't have time to finesse things right now. It just needs to work. I got so many other things to do, so this is a little bit of a rush job. But that will work for my purposes for quite some time. Gonna go ahead and use up the rest of this gloss fern. If I don't have enough, I might try something. Maybe I'll start with just painting the front. It's like maybe a third of the can left. But I'll paint this gloss fern to match the dashboard, the dash panel. Don't think I'll bother with trying to speckle it. I'll just paint it green, call it good. Oh, alright, that looks awesome. I like the hunter green on the gloss fern, or fern gloss, whatever that's called. Like the two-tone look of that. Could definitely do some touch-up in a few places. I might do that later. I might just not. I would like to rebuild this plate at another time, but it's really not the biggest deal. I'm not too worried about it being completely sealed, is what I'm saying. Just to keep drafts from easily blowing through. But I do like that two-tone green. That looks really cool. I did that because I ran out of the fern, gloss fern. But yeah, that is sweet. I like that. I'm gonna give that another day. Still, I mean, it's pretty dry, but it's not completely hard yet. So I'm gonna give that one more day to dry. And then I think I'm gonna go ahead and put some of that insulation mat down. Some of the automotive insulation sound deadening mat. Just to help with any cold air that might come up through the ducting as it's just sitting. And that'll also plug up the gaps along the edges. It's not too big of gaps, but just in case. And help insulate things a little bit. Because yeah, cold air coming up in here might pull heat in through the box, get things, you know, dew might collect on it. It probably isn't the biggest deal, but yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and put some insulation mat on the bottom, on the sides, and on the top of the lid. That'll help fill in any openings and seal it off just a little bit more. So that would be a sliding damper, or a damper plate. It's a better term for that. Damper box. Alright, got some pieces cut out of the insulation mat. The sides, the back, bottom, and the top. Put some on the back of that lid there, or on the bottom of that lid. It'll help kind of seal up around here. And I don't think it's gonna do too much insulating, but I think it'll help out with sound. Driving on bumpy roads, it might help with any echoey, hollow metal box noises. And it should insulate a little bit. So the bottom piece is cut back a little bit, so this has room to slide. Probably don't have to actually stick it down. I kind of don't want to. It all looks so cool. I like the paint job. But I'll never see the inside of it anyway. I mean, from time to time I might, when I go to clean it out, clean out the fan blades or whatever. Yeah, and then this I'll need to cut a couple of slots for the tabs, or just trim off this, you know, half inch, 5/8 inch section right there, and then I'll just stick it on that side, stick that side on that side. Yeah, I think I'll just stick them in there. I don't have to worry about stuff flopping around or falling. Out of where they're supposed to be. Or in the summertime, I'll keep out the heat. Wintertime, I'll keep the heat from escaping. Yeah, it worked out pretty good. Alright, got that all insulated except for the front. I could probably get some insulation on there, but it's not gonna make a big difference. Could be a little too complicated and frustrating to try and insulate between all the tabs and whatnot. So at least I got 80% of the box insulated. Help with noise as well. Oh, that was sharp. The lid. Like so. Yeah, I could already tell that stuff sucked with the noise a little bit. Got rid of the echoey metal box noises. Gonna go with my homemade awl and poke out at least the holes on the bottom. I can see where the holes on the top are gonna go, obviously. Just run the screw through and line them up with those. But I'm going to need to poke out the holes on the bottom so I can see where those are going to go. Could probably even, at some point, get some felt pads or something to put on these tabs so they push on the damper plate. And also kind of keep it from rattling. But I'll mess with that later if it's really that big a deal. I'd have to be on some pretty bumpy roads, I think, for that to rattle. And that's a lot more secure, too, once the lid's on and those tabs are on the back. So I think it's pretty good as it is. Alright, I think I gonna go ahead and put that right about here. Right on the edge so the fan can hang down. Alright, got that screwed down nice and tight. So this will go on something like this. Alright, got the fan mounted. And you put this on. About so. Alright, got that rigid ducting on there. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that the best I can with the insulation pipe wrap. Found some old stuff that might work. Since I might as well use that up. But that looks like that worked out pretty good. Alright, this is a little difficult to wrap, but that worked out pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that up also with some of this all-weather duct tape. Try to help hold things together, just in case this doesn't, the adhesive doesn't last too well. Give it an extra wrap with the duct tape. And yeah, that should help keep any moisture from forming on this tube or have it pull any heat from the cab during the winter, or insulate it during the summer, since it's got all those ridges, grooves or whatever. I can see that acting like a bit of a radiator, transferring heat through it. So I'm happy with that. Let's wrap it up a little more. All right, let's call that good there. I'm happy with that. Nice and insulated. Was thinking about putting some strips on here. Still might at some point, but I don't think I'm gonna worry about it too much. On the fan blower itself, I don't think it's gonna be something I can fully insulate anyway. I'm just putting strips all around it, but then I kind of feel like I'm gonna make a mess. I don't think I'm gonna bother with insulating that after all. Call that good as it is. We'll keep the 15 amp NEMA plug on here for right now. Eventually I'll hardwire it into a switch somewhere, 120 volt switch, and I'll run power from the house over to run it, or I may even get a tiny inverter. I have a small inverter, but it's a modified square wave, and it's not good for the motors, so I need to find me a small inverter that's a pure sine wave. I might do that eventually, and then just have it run off the chassis battery. But for right now, we'll just run power over from the inverter once that gets installed. I need to have that powered up all the time anyway for my refrigerator, so might as well just use that. Alright, I like it. Actually, yeah, there's not going to be any rattle on that now that the top plate is on. Boy, that turned out way better than I thought it would. Still kind of not too happy about the little gap there, but that doesn't matter. It's just gonna keep any, if there's any pressure built up underneath the cap, that might stop any drafts from coming through. I kind of don't think there's gonna be an issue, but it'll also keep out tiny little spiders that might want to try and get up and through this way. So that'll work just fine like that. More bothered by this piece that didn't get painted, but that's fine. That's actually got a really smooth action to it, and I like how it kind of sticks in the open spot there. So in the summertime when I want fresh air, when I'm driving and I don't want to leave my side vents open, got that. And it is, I'm real happy with that. I like it. Probably trim off some of this stuff at some point, but the dash panel is going to come right about here. Hopefully that's not too tall. I'll find out when I put that back on. I can always move it back if I need to, or just cut a notch out of the dash. I think it's going to be fine though. I think there's plenty of room. But yeah, fresh air vents, heat. I'll have a diesel heater coming up here soon. That is really cool though. I like that. Knob looks fancy. I like what I got there. So I got the fresh air intake with some 1/4 inch hardware fabric, I think it's called. Some 1/4 inch metal screen, galvanized. Comes in through the 4-inch rigid duct, through the squirrel cage fan, and into the damper box. The vent box with a sliding damper plate. I'll wire this up later. Nice and quiet. It's actually not bad at all. Got a little rattle, doesn't it? Oh yeah, that's blowing out nice and even across all the vents. That is really cool. A bit of air still gets through there, but that's with the fan on. I think that'll work good for keeping out drafts. Or if it's a big enough deal, I'll remake that sliding plate in the future. That'll be pretty easy to pop that out, make a new one, and slide it in. But that's really cool. And that would probably flow a lot more air if I had a door open. This whole RV is sealed up so well. Let's go ahead and... what can I open up here? Let's just open up the back door. Actually, I just heard a big change in the sound coming from this fan. Oh yeah, a lot more air coming out of there now. That moves a good amount of air. I am very happy with that. Yeah, that blows out air all the way back. Feel it. You feel it all the way right here. So that thing, now it's blowing out kind of up and this way. That works really good. I'm really happy with that. I could actually feel the pressure change a little bit when I close that door. Feel it in my eardrums. Yeah, that is cool. I'd be a lot more happier if I cut this damper plate a little better, but I think it'll serve its purpose quite well. Maybe in the future we'll change that up. Very cool. Feel a good amount of air coming out that door. Wants to push it open. Good amount of pressure. Alright, having everything insulated except the motor is starting to bug me. So I'm going to go ahead and insulate this with the scrap that I have left over here. And yeah, just get as much insulated as possible. Then the only thing that's not insulated will be a few small parts, but mostly the front here. So it's like a really cold winter, I can wrap it in something or put a blanket over it and keep out the cold if I really have to. But I really like the way it looks with the warning and the blower motor type and stuff, and kind of didn't want to insulate it for that reason as well. But yeah, I think it makes a little more sense just to go ahead and get to insulate it as much as possible. Okay, surprised I got that piece in there. Could have took the fan motor off, but I didn't feel like unbolting all that. I need another piece for back here, a piece up there, and yeah, this is actually pretty cold, so I'm glad I'm doing this. That's a good idea. Piece should overlap, yes. Good. I got just enough scrap to do all this, I think. Alright, that worked out almost perfect. Used up every last bit of scrap I had, almost. A couple pieces here. But just about everything got used up. Looks real good too. I'm actually happy with the way that turned out. Alright, fully insulated except for the front, which is fine. Like if it gets, I mean, I got these big old windows here, so I think that's going to be a bigger concern than just this front panel being not insulated. Insulated front, top, bottom, and back. Got a little mess here on the back when I was running down to my last bits of scrap. Used some smaller pieces to cover up gaps. And well, I still got everything though, so yeah, that's awesome. I love the way that turned out.